So please give it up for Michael.
Awesome, thank you. Cool. So a little bit about me. I'm ex-Air Force. I have been working in cloud security and DevOps for about the last 17, 18 years. And I am one of those people that likes to do a lot of different things together. So I had, so I'm finishing up my Master's of Computer Science at Seattle U right now this quarter. And another thing about me is my Twitter handle is IT as Code, which is about this talk too. So I'm very much about trying to change the mentality of pushing everything IT related to be code-based. So from the very beginning of when I was focusing on automation, who in here likes Star Trek? Anybody? Okay. So I love Locutus, the Borg, and one of the things about automation is no matter what we're going to be doing when it comes to IT, we have to be able to automate things, and we have to understand that there is no resistance to automation is definitely futile. So the modern solution delivery approach to IT as Code covers three main areas. The first one is cloud first, essentially changing our mindsets to be able to be focused on everything as code. So no matter what we're doing, solution-based, whether it's tying into infrastructure, it's hitting APIs, it's automating configuration, all of this is going to be code-based and being deployed programmatically for IT, for infrastructure, for everything that's related to being able to create solutions for each of our organizations. So from a standpoint of everything going to be software defined, I like to use the analogy of welcome to the matrix, because really that's where we're at. Everything is going to be not just software defined, but also where the entire mentality of how we're doing things, pushing things out programmatically, being able to become more agile is the focus of where the mentality of where we're going at with everything. So modern solution delivery is software defined, IT as code, automation, everything as a service, and cloud first and security centric. So as we move forward, on configuration of infrastructure, applications, all the data, everything that we're shifting towards automation, we have to have solutions that are created to be able to maintain the life cycles of what we're doing and do it in an iterative way. This is definitely a culture shift, and the cloud was originally made specifically for developers to be able to deploy and iterate on quickly on infrastructure. And with modern solution delivery, everything is moving towards that same approach for IT teams and internal IT and everybody on the ops side to be able to deliver traditional IT workloads the same way. And we need to be able to also be more agile and be able to adopt technologies that are platform-based, serverless, all these, as I said earlier, buzzwords of things, but actually how everything's going, where we're starting to abstract away different services and being able to leverage containers and serverless technologies. So why now? Why is modern solution delivery required? Well, when I was at Google Next, one of the key metrics there was 80% of traditional IT workloads are still on-premise. And so that is a huge opportunity to be able to deliver those same solutions into the cloud, but that also requires refactoring, because we're not just going to lift and shift those over. Organizations no longer want to maintain data centers. I've worked for large enterprises that want to get rid of their entire data center and go to Azure or AWS. They don't want to deal with having to have their data centers anymore. There's a major supply and demand issue with tech talent. So being able to automate anything, but also focusing on the core IT infrastructure workloads that are on-premise are essential to being able to try to solve for this supply and demand issue. IT as code is really about providing agility to digital transformation, because everybody wants to get there, but being able to codify everything that you do technology-based is the key. And a major focus on business requirements first and then technology. So everybody wants to innovate. How do we do that? Well, we have to leverage automation, the tools that are out there, but then also have a mentality and a culture shift to being able to move in that direction. So traditional DevOps stages, you're going to be releasing software. So the whole premise is that you're going to have a CI/CD pipeline. The same mentality can be used, though, for modern solution delivery, except we change some of those out. So there's still, you need to be able to plan, you have to architect out, be able to deliver what you architect, and then from a security standpoint, monitor, enforce, and remediate anything that comes up, and be able to do it in an iterative, programmatic way, so that over time, you can manage the life cycle of that particular solution, and there is no issues with being able to make changes, enforcing the configuration. So it's a very similar process. So a traditional DevOps toolchain, some of you, who in here uses Terraform or Ansible? I'm sure most of you, some of you, okay. So being able to tie into Git, having some sort of job management, being able to define your infrastructure with something like Terraform or even cloud-native templates, being able to utilize something for configuration management, and then tying it to APIs, which could be anything. I like to use Zapier because that's something that a lot of companies will use, even if they're not technical, just to be able to tie into APIs. But being able to do things from a CI/CD standpoint can be applied to being able to deliver solutions as well. So you can take the same tools that exist out there and deliver solutions internally to your organization. So we'll start with the solution requirements. You really have to understand what exactly the solution is, how that solution is architected, because the bigger thing is you have to know what you have. What exactly systems are you trying to tie into? What is the infrastructure requirements that you're going to be needing to be able to get into a solution that you can deliver programmatically? Focusing on infrastructure as code, configuration management, API integrations, and then security controls that you can look at and understand how things are mapped from a security posture standpoint, and be able to also iterate on that over time. So from this standpoint, the example that we have here is we need to take that architecture and translate it into code. So the first thing that we'll look at is what are the requirements on the infrastructure side? So some things can map over, some things would have to change, right? But from a standpoint of this particular example that I'm going to be running through, we're focusing on Azure using ARM templates. So we're going to look at the core infrastructure, some backups that are there, but all of this ends up becoming IT as code, because the infrastructure configuration is now in JSON or YAML or however you're going to create it, and then you're going to deploy that into the cloud provider programmatically. The next piece of it is translating the configuration to code, so that you can look at what actually you're not only going to install, but how you're going to configure what's actually going to be inside of the infrastructure that you're deploying. So for this example, I'm using Ansible, but this could be Chef, Puppet, any tool that's out there. The whole premise of this is that you're focused on the configuration of what exactly that you're going to be deploying from a solution standpoint. And then adding API integration. So there may be external systems that you want to tie into. You could be tying into Slack. You could be tying into ConnectWise PSA. That could be ServiceNow. That could be different security tools. It could be anything that you're going to tie into from an API standpoint to be able to do something, whether you want to alert somebody, whether you want to push configuration to something else. The whole premise is building on top of the infrastructure you have, the configuration you have, and having the ability to also tie into external systems so that you can do other things, you can notify people, you can let people know what's going on when you build a solution and as you iterate on it. And job management of all this is something that encapsulates everything. So something to be able to release what you were trying to put together. So you take your infrastructure as code, your configuration management, your API integrations, and now you need to do something with it and be able to iterate on it over time. So the ability to have is something that you can use from a job management standpoint where you can iterate, you can deploy it, you can make changes, you can reiterate. So the same mechanism that you would use to release software, you can do the same thing for solution delivery. And then adding in security as code. So after all this is done, there's some security controls in place, but being able to make sure that you are able to focus on being able to harden images, or leveraging hardened images. So it could be something from CIS, could be your own internal hardened images that you have certain compliance requirements. Being able to know what your benchmarks are and running hardening playbooks against the infrastructure inside of your solution so that over time, if any vulnerabilities come up or things that you need to remediate, you can absolutely do that with the playbooks you have. And then proactive security scanning so that you can ensure that you are not only know what you have now, but also know that your benchmarks are working, what you have in place. And at the end of the day, a very remedial type of process, but being able to also just have checklists in place so that you know exactly what's going on, how you're doing things, and then being able to share those with other people on your team. So I'm going to walk through a demo. I can't do a live demo, but I will walk through kind of what this looks like. So we'll start with Git. So there has to start with somewhere where you're going to store this IT as code. All this is available on this link here, and there'll be an email that gets sent out. And one of the things around all of this is when you build this all out, you're going to have your infrastructure as code, your configuration management, your API integrations, everything all together, and then you need to do something with it. So when you're creating it all, you'll pick your text editor. That will be something like VS Code. The demo I was going to run through is with a product that we've been developing called Playbook.cloud, essentially Ansible in a browser. But this could be anything where you could have the ability to create your ARM templates, your Ansible playbooks, everything that's required to deliver the solution. And then the next thing you do is you can run through and run your Ansible playbooks. So you can chain these all together, have the ability to tie into your ARM templates to be able to deploy the infrastructure resources and the configuration that's going to be deployed inside of those particular pieces of infrastructure. When it comes to running Ansible, a lot of us will live in the command line. One of the things that I've been working on changing mentality-wise out there in the industry is trying to make it easier to be able to consume some of these automation tools like Ansible. So with Playbook.cloud, which at the very end we'll go through, but there's everybody's going to get a free 1 month of Playbook.cloud, which is a way to be able to deploy Ansible from a browser so that you can iterate in serverless containers. And the whole mentality around it is that you have the ability to quickly get stuff up and running. You can have the ability to run this particular solution project, but just generally speaking, being able to run Ansible serverless and in a browser. So after you run that, you get your ARM deployment. All of your resources will be deployed inside of Azure programmatically through the ARM templates, leveraging Ansible to do it, but you could use something else like Terraform or other infrastructure as code tools to be able to do that. And once it's all deployed, the whole premise is, great, I can deploy this. Now if I want to add or subtract to that solution, I have the ability to do it because all I need to do is build upon what I have there from an ARM template perspective. You can also chain together templates as well, or depending on the tools you're using, but with ARM templates, or it could be CloudFormation, it could be Google Deployment Manager, any of the cloud native templates to be able to deploy infrastructure. And then security. So one of the things about solution delivery is being able to focus on what is required from a security standpoint. Who in here uses any of the security tools like OpenSCAP or CIS-CAD or any of those tools? Nobody? So from a standpoint of what are some tools that you're using from a security standpoint? Anybody, scanning-wise? What's that? SolarQ. So any of those tools, and you use them programmatically? Yeah. So from a standpoint of any sort of security, being able to not just use what's already out there from a benchmarking standpoint, so you could use it for the example, CIS hardened images, but there's also the ability to use some scanning tools that you're going to add into your pipeline process, so that whether you're doing it at the very beginning of your solution delivery and having the ability to have these tools in line with all of the core infrastructure and configuration, everything else you're deploying, you have the ability to also know what you're getting from a security control standpoint. If you're using hardened images, if you're using tools that you're using to scan and then remediate any of the issues that come up from a vulnerability standpoint. And then being able to add in over time. So this needs to be a mindset, not something that that is an afterthought, but actually happening when you're actually delivering the solution. And from a security standpoint, I think that's one of the things that we end up overlooking when we're trying to build something, because we want to be super agile. We want to be able to deliver the actual solution. But at the end of the day, from a security standpoint, that's something that we have to be very cognizant about having in place and being able to remediate any issues that come up. And then from a standpoint of being able to take all of this and visualize it. So one of the things at Refactor that we've been doing is we built what we call the Cloud Plus Security Architect platform. And the whole premise of it was to have a meta layer on top of all these different tools that are out there. So whether you're using cloud native templates, Ansible, tools that will eventually support like Terraform and so on, the premise is having something on top of those, being able to visually architect them out, and then once you are good with the architecture, be able to deploy it into whatever cloud you want against any external system that you want. So that exact same solution that I walked you through, you can see up here that there are all those same things in here, but they're all visualized. But at their core, every component is still IT as code. So each one of these, whether you're tying into, say, ConnectWise Manage, or you're wanting to drop in a message into Slack channel, or you're building the core infrastructure, all of these become components that you can visualize. And so there's another way to be able to go about doing this, where you can glue all of these different systems together. So you may not be building the solution as a typical delivery pipeline as you would think about releasing software, but you would do it from a solution standpoint, being able to blueprint what you have. And then when you want to add in other services, make changes to your actual architecture, you can, and you have the ability to do it over time, because it becomes an iterative, agile process that you can go through. So you can take the same methodologies that you would from a DevOps standpoint and apply it to the actual solution that you're delivering. And then if you want to add in other product offerings, or you want to do something that's serverless or Kubernetes, or you want to add in different types of services that come out that you may want to use from a cloud standpoint, you can absolutely do that. And the whole premise of our whole thought process on why we decided to build this out there is mirroring the people that know how to code and the people that don't, so that the core, those IT professionals out there that don't know how to code can still have the ability to get the end results of all of us that know how to do stuff from a coding perspective and from a DevOps perspective, but then also being able to, at the native level, be able to create what we want. So again, coming back to the ARM templates, or the Ansible playbooks, or the security controls that we want, or I want to add in scanning capabilities from a CIS standpoint, or I want to use any other tools that I have. So being able to come in and create those tools and have them inside of the actual solution so that you can have them available in there. But then also, as new tools come out or things that you can do, you have the ability to utilize them as well. Because even if you aren't using Ansible, who in here uses Chef? Who uses Puppet? Not too many people anymore? Okay. But being able to have those tools available in their native format so that you can utilize them inside of a bigger system that allows you to glue those things together. And then from a Playbook.cloud standpoint, so that's what we call the Cloud Plus Security Architect platform for actual modern solution delivery, providing IT as code, but also having a visual layer on top of it as well, so you can build it from a code perspective, but you can also visualize and realize your infrastructure, is the Playbook.cloud, which everybody will get a 1-month subscription to, which has, which again is Ansible as a service in a browser. You'll have the ability to take your existing playbooks, if you have them, or if you don't, create some from scratch, and you can run them in secure ephemeral containers. So the nice thing is you'll be able to actually test out different versions of Ansible. You can create your, let me just go back real quick to, if you guys can see this. You'll be able to use an online Ansible editor so you can build out your playbooks. You can tie into Git, so you can actually utilize this tool with the repo that will be sent out in the email, so you'll be able to actually immediately start using it. You'll have to put in your Azure secrets in there, but you'll be able to do that. And then you can also call all this stuff from an external API as well. So if you want to trigger this from any other system and be able to utilize Ansible, because the entire platform itself is using secure ephemeral containers, so it's a completely serverless architecture that allows for us to ensure that not only are your playbooks or anything that you decide to install in the container safe, but you'll be able to actually run anything that you want from a container standpoint. So you'll be able to install whatever. So we had some beta testers in installing Terraform and then calling Terraform from the modules. And then one other thing that we have in there is we have all of the Ansible modules in here that will give you the ability to add them in as snippets into your playbook. So you'll be able to actually do that. So you'll be able to go in and see the different modules that are available. And in 2.8 that just came out last month, there's about, I think, 700 additional modules that were added. So you'll be able to utilize all of those as well inside of the platform. So it's, again, and you guys will all get a email that will come out with the information about this. So I'll make sure you get access to the Git repo and the GitHub Git repo, and then also you'll get a coupon code, so you'll be able to actually get 1 month of unlimited use of Playbook.cloud, and so you'll be able to utilize that for an entire month. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you can reach out to me. My Twitter handle again is ITAsCode, so you can reach out to me there, and I'm available at Refactor as well, so there's all my contact information as well. So really appreciate the time, and thank you.